On this day, in 2018, the mystery of the identity of the Golden State Killer was finally solved. Who was he? How was he found? And what were his crimes? Well, I'm not going to go into too much detail of the crimes here because they truly are awful. I just want to warn you up top that I'm going to be touching on some pretty horrible stuff, so scroll along to this time in the video if you just want to find out how this bastard was caught. So, over a period of 20 months between 1974 and 1975, there were around 120 burglaries and one murder in the city of Visalia, California, that are believed to have been committed by this bastard, who was known as the Visalia Ransacker at the time. He wasn't stealing much of value. He stole coins from a piggy bank or a single earring, a family photo. He'd rearrange things in the house and generally cause a mess. Just creepy stuff that was, in hindsight, someone learning how to break into somebody's house for much more sinister reasons. In 1975, an intruder broke into the house of the Snelling family in the dead of night. He tried to kidnap 16-year-old Elizabeth, but her father, Claude, woke up to some strange noises in the house and he went to investigate. He was shot and killed in front of his daughter and the intruder ran away. This is the first known murder committed by the Golden State Killer. In 1976, a spate of burglaries and rapes in Sacramento County happened and the perpetrator became known as the East Area Rapist. He would conduct extensive reconnaissance before breaking into the homes of women who were alone. Some of these women were teenagers, or for the purposes of this, I would refer to them as children. He then moved on to breaking into the homes of couples. He would tie up the male partner, stack dishes on top of them so that he could hear them move, and then he would take the female partner into another room to attack her. He would stay in their homes for hours. He would eat from their fridge, he'd go through their things, just as violating as possible. There were around 50 attacks attributed to him over a 3-year period. On the 2nd of February 1978, 20-year-old Katie and 21-year-old Brian Maggiore were out walking their dog. They were confronted and shot to death, and this marked the next escalation. The East Area Rapist had become the original Night Stalker. Not to be confused with the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, who came a bit later. The original Night Stalker's attacks were very much the same MO, but he would then murder his victims. The attacks lasted for 3 years until 1981. He then broke into the home of Gregory Sanchez and Cherry Domingo, who fought him off, and this then led to a 5-year gap in his activities. Speculated that this fight had frightened him a bit. In 1986, he attacked and murdered 19-year-old Janelle Cruz in her home, and then he simply disappeared. The case went cold for decades. According to the FBI, murderers get away with it 40% of the time, which is far too high a percentage, in my humble opinion. And it was beginning to look like this guy was going to be in that 40%. Wasn't until retired cold case investigator Paul Hulse, fantastic name, began looking into the case in 2001 that the crimes of the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker were linked. In 2011, Michelle McNamara, author of I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is an excellent book on the topic, began investigating the crimes. She was a stay-at-home mum, she was an amateur detective, and she gave him the name of the Golden State Killer. Unfortunately, Michelle died suddenly in her sleep, so she never got to see him caught, but her work did help investigators in finding his identity. See, it wasn't until the mid to late 1980s that DNA was able to be used in criminal investigations, and the Golden State Killer didn't match any of the profiling that they had. He'd worn gloves, so there were no fingerprints left behind at crime scenes. So the FBI reopened the case in 2018, offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. Paul Hulse decided to run the DNA once more through GEDmatch, which is a public genetic database. People use it to research their family trees and stuff. And This threw up results of his relatives that could be traced back to his great-great-great-great-grandparents all the way back in the 1800s. Investigators built several family trees and then they worked through them to narrow down the potential suspects. They took a DNA sample from the car door handle of one of the suspects and it matched DNA taken from a rape kit. They'd got him. It was 72-year-old Joseph DeAngelo. DeAngelo had been a police officer at the time of the attacks, which would explain why he was so successful in avoiding detection. He was fired from his job as a police officer in 1979 for stealing a hammer and dog repellent, and if that is not suspicious, I do not know what is. He then worked as a mechanic and a greengrocer. He was married with 3 children, and it's speculated that he stopped his attacks in 1986 because he was in his 40s by that point and he was less physically able to commit his crimes. So on this day in 2018, police knocked on the door of Joseph DeAngelo. He was arrested and left in an interrogation room alone, where he started to speak to himself, saying, "I did all that. I didn't have the strength to push him out. He made me. He went with me. It was like in my head. I mean, he's a part of me. I didn't want to do those things. I pushed Jerry out and had a happy life. I did all those things. I destroyed all those lives. So now I've got to pay the price." To be fair, he did once fake a heart attack when he was fired from a job for shoplifting, so it is on brand for him to make stuff up. He admitted to 13 murders and 13 kidnappings to spare him the death penalty. He was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus 15 concurrent life sentences. He said that he was truly sorry to everyone he'd hurt, which does not feel like enough, but I'm glad that we finally caught him. I hope that the rest of his life is horrible. I don't know about you. Thank you so much for watching. Why not subscribe? And I'll see you tomorrow.